What's happening, hardscapers? This is episode 120 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk to you about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And today's episode is brought to you by Alliance Gator. Their innovation has brought products like Gator-based G2 polymeric sand, extreme edge, nitro joint sand, and a diverse range of geotextiles to the hardscape market. Check them out at alliancegator.com. And on today's episode, we mash up previous I Am a Hardscaper interviews answering this question. Do you charge for consultations? Why or why not? This is one that I felt was important to understand everyone's thought process behind whether or not they charge for consultations, and to also learn some interesting ways in which some charge but use that money for charitable donations or elsewhere in their business. It is also interesting to hear some of these business owners' responses and how they may have changed in their business since then. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is Sean of Premier Outdoor Living.
First is that phone conversation. I talk about, what they're looking for, what kind of budget to expect, kind of set that expectation. If that sounds good, I tell them I'll come out, we'll talk about some ideas on site. I'll come up with kind of a vision for the project along with your ideas. And then I'll kind of fine tune that budget. And I let them know that the next step in the process is a 3D design, which costs $500. It's deductible off the cost of the project if they move forward. So if they're okay with all that, then we do that initial consultation. I meet with them on site and we just kind of talk ideas. I don't do a fee for me just coming out, kind of for two reasons. I think that can put off some people that could be very serious leads. So I do let them know that it's $500 for the design. So they know that if they want to pursue this, they are going to have to put out some money. But I also want, a lot of times I'll go on site, and even though it sounded good on the phone, it's a project that I kind of want to walk away from. And I feel like if you charge, say, $200 to just come out for a consultation, it's a little harder to say, okay, now I'm here, but I'm really not interested in this. So it leaves that flexibility open, which I like. And it really forces me to just try to pre-qualify better through our website and through that phone consultation, so that at least 75% of those on-site visits, I really feel like is a good lead. It could be a good fit, but I still have the option to kind of walk away from it, refer them somewhere else, and they don't feel like they're taken advantage of because they just spent $200.
This is Caleb of Almond Landscape.
The biggest thing with charging a consultation fee is, like I said, we don't, if we've done work with you in the past, we don't charge a consult fee. And if, you're super local to our shop, because we've done, a couple $100,000 of work within 5 miles of our shop, which is wonderful. We want to keep that going. The less we got to pay guys to drive, the more value we can give our clients of on-site productive time, right? And so, we can give our clients better projects and better value projects the closer they are, the less time they're paying our guys to drive. Does that make sense? So, so if I can get in front of people locally, we waive it. But for the most part, our company, I have very little time, and I'm not in the field hardly at all anymore, with the exception of this past summer. I was in a good bit. Most I've been in a long time, but even then it wasn't that much. I barely picked up a paver for hire. Bo and his guys handled that, and that was awesome. And he's a good guy, and he's outfitted and suited well to do that. And that's the point. I want to put those kind of people in positions to excel and take all of us collectively in the company, to new places, because the more profitable the company is, the more we can pay our guys, the nicer equipment we can buy, and it's just a self-perpetuating cycle, and that's what we want to build. So with the consultation fee, the biggest thing is it's a selection process. It kind of weeds people out real fast, and I know we've lost opportunity because of it. I'm sure some people are like, well, I'm just not going to pay a fee, even though they still paid somebody to do a patio. You know what I mean? But the biggest thing is it weeds out who is serious and who isn't, and what we find ourselves. And another part of that is the more I work, the more I say that we have a consultation fee. When I started doing it, I was not real confident about it. And people could hear that in my voice, I think. Or consciously or not, subconsciously, whatever. But now I have no time for BS. And so it's just, we have a consultation fee. It's $75. It's non-refundable. It does not get applied to the project. It just buys a little bit of our time and fuel to come out and consult with you of our 20 years of experience. And, if it's a small patio project, we'll give you a simple little design. If you need a full planting plan, our design fees start at $200, blah, blah, blah. And so the biggest thing about the consult fee is it weeds out who's serious and who isn't. And I only have time really for people who are serious. I don't have a lot of time to try to sell someone something. And I don't want to sell anybody anything. I want people to feel like they purchased, not like they were sold. And it eases my conscience at night if I'm not pushing things on people. And the only evil salesman technique I do, and again, that's why I'm not a great salesman, right? The only evil salesman technique I do, and I tell my clients this from the get, is when your project's done, I'm going to set up a couple sample landscape lights, either some uplights into the trees or some wall lights on the hardscaping, if they didn't already opt into it, just to show you what the potential is, because landscape lighting is so cool. And like sometimes you can't illustrate that to people until they see it on their own stuff. And so I will do that. That's the only evil salesman thing I do. But the biggest thing is like it weeds out who's serious, who isn't, and then I go talk to these serious clients. We close on most of our clients that pay the fee, and if they don't, oh well, I've got a little bit of money, to recoup some time, even though we all know how much time is involved in visiting with a client, producing an estimate, even a sketch, concept, whatever. We're the only people around in our county and possibly up in Columbus, Ohio, which is our next big city to us, that charges a consult fee, aside from like landscape architects or serious landscape designers. As far as like landscape contractors go or whatever, we're the only people around to charge it. And I have people tell me that, like, well, I had so-and-so out and they don't charge me. And that's fine. I know them. They're good company. They're good people, and they'll do you a great job. And generally, I don't want to bid against my buddies that are good contractors anyways. We kind of have a weird little thing where we kind of stay out of each other's way, respectfully. But, it's something one of the main drivers, this story is the main reason I started charging fees is I went up to a project up in North Columbus, Ohio, which is an hour drive from me. And I went and met with this guy. Actually, it was supposed to be his wife. Well, his wife was running late from work, so the husband had to be there. And I went up to talk to this guy about the landscape, and maybe I was even presenting a plan. But this dude had no interest in what I was saying whatsoever, because it wasn't his pet project. It wasn't his thing. It was his wife's. And I'll never forget, there's a TV on in the background, and this dude kept looking over my shoulder to see what was on TV, and I felt so disrespected, and I learned my lesson there of like, I will never meet with the not decision maker person, whoever it is, if they're not both there, or if whoever wanted the project the most isn't there. And I'm charging consult fees from here on because I'm getting paid for this nonsense in some manner or another. And every time I drive by that, which is not very often, but up by that area, I think, yep, that was the one that started why I'm done. And you'll have those experiences, but it was an interesting experience on my end as far as like, learning like, okay, always make sure that the person that wants the project is in the meeting. And if not, reschedule the thing and don't try to push through it, because this dude was not into it. We never did win the project, and I wasted a ton of time. And I just got to the point where I was done wasting time with people that didn't respect my time, as little as I charge for it for a consult fee, because it's not about making money on the consult. It's about qualifying and weeding out who's serious. So there we go.
This is Jeremy of J Squared Outdoor.
Yeah, we do. Typically it's $100 for us to come out and meet with them. That's not always the case. If they're close by, right down the road from our shop, we'll generally waive that, and just depending on the time of year. But that keeps us from running around chasing every lead. It just depends on the situation. I should say that also if someone's like a referral, if they know us somehow, we won't charge it then. It's kind of a discretionary thing, but it keeps us from, and the way I explain it to people is, look, I've got a life, I've got a lot of things to do. I'm going to give you some expert opinion. I know what I'm talking about, and I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you a vision of, even if I'm not going to throw it on a design at this point, the advice that I give you is going to save you a lot of money, and it's going to get you what you want faster. So it's worth every penny to you, and it compensates me for my time. And generally, I don't have much pushback from that. Of course, there is people that don't want to pay that, but generally people are pretty cool with that. Once you explain it to them, they understand that your time's valuable.
This is Andy Mulder of Mulder Maintenance and Services.
I've experienced or done some experimenting with both ways as far as charging for the initial consultation. I last year we were booked out like, I don't know, 4 or 6 months out, and I I was getting so many calls, I couldn't get to everybody. So I started just saying it was $100 for me to come meet with them. And that got rid of a lot of tire kickers, I feel. But I don't know. I'm not going to go about that, at least right now this year. I'm not going to go about that this year. I think I don't have a problem going to meet with people if it's up to me to vet them enough on the initial phone call, and make sure it's, sounds like the right kind of thing for us. And then I do charge a design fee for any kind of design work that we have to do, which almost every hardscape job requires a design. I don't know if I've ever done one without a design. So that I go over that with them when we meet with them. And that cost all depends on the size of the project and the difficulty of the house to design, so on and so forth.
This is Garrett of Premier Landscape.
Right now we do not charge for consultation. Consultation for now is still free. We're tossing the idea around for next year, trying it. But, the flip side is we do have a decent pre-qualification process. So, as long as we're doing our job in the office to start, we're kind of weeding out a lot of that, beforehand anyway. So the better job we do at that, the better we are. I think charging a small fee, whether it be $50 or $100 or whatever, but small fee really might just step us up one step closer into that pre-qualification process, and really make sure by the time we show up, this person is not wasting our time or their time. But again, it's a debated subject. We still don't charge for it now, but we're considering it in the future.
This is Chad of Natural Design Landscapes.
I wish that we could charge for consults, and I think a lot of guys feel the same. It would be great to say $50 for me to show up, have a consult. You're going to get some value out of my time, right? And maybe some ideas, and we can use that as a springboard to go further with your project. But I don't think that my market facilitates it, at least right now. I've never tried. I guess I could try, but nobody else is doing it, so I don't feel that I can. Anyone who's great where I'm from is extremely busy, and I think if we all jumped in together into that charging for consult mentality, then it would work, at least for the middle to high end clients that see the value in our time. But as I said before, I'm not in a super expensive market where that would work for everybody, which, on the other side, I think that might be great, because right off the bat, we'd weed out those tire kickers, those price shoppers, anyone who we never really wanted to work for in the beginning anyway.
This is Tony of Group Zamco.
I don't charge for consultations. Honestly, I try to keep the consultation short, because the way I see it is, now people know who we are and all that, so I have to adapt to that. Whereas, before we were kind of just going off of, I didn't charge for consultations. I didn't charge for 3Ds. I didn't charge for any of that because I needed to build a portfolio, right? I could have either spent money in marketing and tried to get my name out there, or I could not charge for plans, not charge for these things, get the projects, build them, take the pictures, put those out there for free, and allow that to get into the clientele. So that's the way I decided to not invest in marketing, but to invest in my projects and let the investment on the projects return, because marketing will only give you a return during your marketing campaign, right? Whereas a project, the pictures of a project are there forever.
This is Mike of Creekside Outdoor Living.
That depends. That's a great question. So if it was a lead that came from somebody that I know, or somebody that is a referral from somebody that we did a project for, automatically no, I'm not going to charge for a consultation. But a lot of other times we are. We have even right now, we have a really, really heavy call volume. And one of the ways to kind of determine, who's really serious about this, who wants a creekside job rather than just a landscape job, is to charge for that consultation. I think that it does establish a lot of brand value when you do that. And some people will turn you down, and that's okay. But then some people won't. Some people won't turn you down, and you will go out there and they will be a little bit more invested. Man, I can't tell you how many times Somebody has called for a consultation. I went out there and they didn't even show up. Man, that nothing makes you feel like more crap. You're just sitting there like, wow, I really am the scum of the earth, I guess. Like, no, I know my value. I know the value of my brand, and we're gonna charge for it. There's a monetary value to the advice and the wisdom that seasoned hardscapers have. And I think that it's kind of a cheapening of the industry to not, at least from time to time, charge for a consultation.
This is Dylan of DNR Hardscapes.
I do not charge. I do not charge, but I do let people know that I'm very busy. It could take me 2 to 3 weeks just to get to a consultation. So I let them be the deciding factor in that. I let them decide, hey, is it worth my time? To me, a 2-week consultation is the same price to me as like charging $50 to be out there tomorrow, to be $100 out there tomorrow. So when I tell a customer immediately, I was like, hey, it could be 2 weeks till I get to you. To me, that is the same equivalent as offering somebody $50 to $100. So it automatically, kind of puts in their mindset, they're going to have to wait for it. They're going to have to put in a little time and effort to actually get to me. So I do not charge. The only thing I do really charge for is 3D renderings, because that takes me not like an hour. That takes me like a full day to, probably 3 hours tops, but it takes me about a full day, what I tell customers, to actually complete these 3D renderings. That's about the only thing that I charge for through my consultations.
This is Evan of Pride Hardscape.
So I will be starting to charge for consultations in 2021. I don't want to, but my time, I feel like now with what I'm giving to customers, I'm giving them a hand sketch, a full design, material choice, and 2 to 3 visits out there to try to sell that job. So for me, it's more of me paying for my time instead of, I'd rather be laying a patio. I'd rather be, helping the boys out than not making money. Like on all day Monday, all I do is estimates, and my Mondays and Fridays are estimate days. And I want to make some money during those days because I'm spending money, and I will start charging in 2021. But I think this year it's helped us establish our name. And if I suggest anybody starting their hardscape company, all those younger guys that are, competing against older companies that have a better name, been there longer than you, then I would give free estimates because you guys are trying to make it. You should be working 80 hours a week and grinding like we did. You should be the ones giving out their free estimate and trying to get those jobs. And I still do the same thing too, though. And I'm 37. I'm going to do this. I feel like the estimates, you kind of have to get out there and grind, but the consultation is definitely going to be charged for 2021. Definitely. I'm hesitant. I feel like we're going to lose some jobs, but also it kind of gets away those bids that we never get those jobs anyways. It kind of leans out the ones that are kind of just talking about it,
I want to take a break from today's episode to thank our sponsor, Alliance Gator. They are the makers behind Gator Base, a synthetic base option that reduces excavation for patios and walkways. This product is time proven with millions of square feet installed, holding up to freeze-thaw cycles for years without failures. Gator Base features a tongue and groove system locking the panels together, along with a plastic edge restraint that is installed with anchor screws that fasten directly to the Gator Base itself, creating a strong system throughout. We use Gator Base as often as we can and whenever applicable. You can find out more about this product at alliancegator.com, found in the show notes of this episode, and be sure to connect with your local rep for installation assistance. Now back to our episode. This is Josh of Sutton Outdoor.
No, I generally don't charge for the initial conversation or the consultation. I just love meeting with people and educating them about their project. Most people have no clue what they're getting into. So I try to weed some of the people out that look a little more suspicious. You can generally tell by the way they fill out the forms online and stuff. And then I like to call and see if they're, getting multiple other contractors or not. But I love to just build the relationships and build the trust from the beginning. So I just feel like charging for that just kind of cheapens that and kind of raises their eyebrows at first, like, wow, he's charging me $80 just to come meet with me. And I just look at it from my perspective. Like I've never paid money to have a contractor just come give me a price. If I'm going to do design work and stuff, then we definitely charge for that once we get beyond that initial consultation. But I've had multiple jobs sold just from people that maybe didn't buy from me, but their neighbor or their friend at work, and they're like, "Yeah, I just met with Josh from Sutton Outdoor. He quoted me on a patio. It was too high for what we wanted, but he was really nice and knowledgeable." So I've sold a lot of work that way. I know a few guys in our region have been charging, and they have some luck and they get a lot of pushback, but I just right now we don't charge, but I can see the value both, but I just like to not have that barrier. It's one less thing I have to try to hurdle to sell the job. I try to be as easy as possible to work with and transparent, and just build that trust from the beginning, and not look like I'm out just to pad my pockets. So that's where I'm at.
This is Adam of Lily Hardscaping.
I don't. I listened to Evan's podcast, and I've heard a lot of people say, "Hey, you're going out, you're taking the time. You need to bill accordingly for that." I think that's something that probably not next year, but somewhere down the line it is going to change, because they do usually end up being an hour, 2 hours. These consultations. You go out, you're talking, you're throwing around ideas, product ideas. If you bring a transit or a zip level, whatever you have, and it takes time. And time, when you have a business, time is money, so I don't charge now. I do foresee that changing.
This is Danny of Niche Gardens.
So I don't, because of the simple fact that I love that relationship of I like to help people. So I tell people all the time, I say, even if you don't do business with me, I'll still answer your questions. It's the same thing I do with actual landscapers in the area too. They look at everybody and they're like, "Well, that's my competition." I'm like, "No, man, that's kind of your brother. It's kind of like a union, if you will." So, I like to answer questions. I like to see different things. I like to try to resolve problems. I love like troubleshooting and seeking out, how to fix something. So I kind of look at it like I'm just meeting somebody, to be honest with you. I don't even know I really go to the job in the beginning and see dollar signs, to be honest with you. I guess my approach on that's how we're successful. I don't put a lot of stress on myself about that, I guess.
This is Dan of Wasson Nursery.
The initial consultation, we've been back and forth on that. As of right now, we are not charging for it. I'll be honest, it got really busy there for a while back in August. I was getting so many calls from all kinds of pool companies that we were starting to charge for a consultation fee then, because there was just too many appointments. But right now, as far as company policy, we don't charge for that initial appointment. We do charge after that, depending on the scope of the work. That determines design fee.
This is Nick of Earthscapes Landscaping.
We don't charge for consultations right now. I could see us maybe doing this in the future if our close rate isn't looking so hot. But for now, we just aim to screen people as well as we can so that we can assure that there's someone that we want to work with. And we can be pretty selective about who we want to deal with. And we're also learning to pick out certain red flags and, avoid any potential, horror stories or issues down the line by kind of screening better and trying to pick out those red flags when we see them.
This is Craig of Scheller Outdoor Living.
No, not at this time. We do it for free. I'm trying to get in front of people right now. But I can see that I can see that being a thing I do in the future. And I've listened to a couple of your podcasts and heard guys, there are different methods of approaching that. I'm also not a designer, so we should probably get that out of the way. I'm an installer. I love the craft. I love the details and all, doing the work. So I work with a designer, and then I have some other things that we do. But so I have to charge for design because I'm paying a designer. So what I typically do is, if it's just a patio and it's fairly easy and they're not wanting I'm not a big fan of doing plants and things, but I'll do it to complete the project. I like the construction stuff more. So as a Belgard authorized contractor, they provide their Belgard Design Studio for free for those contractors. So you can send a sketch on a piece of paper or a napkin, and they'll send you back a 3D rendering on Google SketchUp, basically. It has their products and all that. So I've been able to sketch out something and show somebody a 3D drawing of what their backyard's going to look like and not charge them for it. And the way I do that is I say, as a partner with Belgard, this is something they offer me and I'm just going to pass that on to you. And at some point I can say, we can do a 3D drawing that's going to be $300, or we can have our designer come and do a full scale design for $800 to $1,500. And we've had a designer that we work with. She's contract. She does not work for me. And she's done about 3 or 4 for me so far. And it just elevates the jobs completely to another level. And I usually bring her in on the full projects. And those people are willing to spend, that money on a larger project.
This is Phil of PJE Lawn Care and Landscaping.
So up front, we charge a design fee to our clients, to start the initial design, anywhere between $500 to $1,500 for a design fee. Unless they're pretty solidified in the fact that they want us to do the project. In that case, we won't charge a design fee. We'll design for them and revise and change as many times as we need to. However, we own the design. Should we design for somebody and we don't end up landing the job, but they want us to consult for them and help them through a process of building their project, I build that out. It ends up being me or Blair, my right-hand man, that do the consulting. And we would bill that out at $250 an hour with a minimum of a $1,500 fee for the project. So that $1,500 fee would allow us to really dive into material costing and all of that kind of stuff and make sure that things are right. And then the $250 an hour would justify us not being on one of our projects to come over and check on a project that we're not making any money on, to make sure the footings are deep enough, to make sure that the layout is proper, to make sure that they're doing things at or above code, and just be that watchful eye for our client that we developed a relationship with but couldn't close the deal with. So we do that a few times a year. If we can't get in there on a time frame, or we couldn't get our price low enough, but the client really wants our eye on it and wants us to make sure that it's built to the same quality that we would have done for them, we charge them a $1,500 consultation fee and $250 an hour to make sure that everything's right, and then go from there. And like I said, it's not a profit boost, but what that does is those clients who don't end up with us still end up selling for us down the road. They go, our project was successful because PJE helped us manage it. And they were our eyes out there. They made sure no mistakes were being made. They made sure everything was the way it's supposed to be. And in turn, we try to be fair with the other contractors. I tell people, I hate it when somebody else comes and picks our work apart. I don't want to go out there and pick somebody else's work apart. But if somebody's paying us a consultation fee, I typically will have private conversations with the contractor and say, hey man, you're not doing this, to code. I'm not bringing this up to the homeowner, but you're not going to cut that corner under our eye. So you're going to have to do it. And honestly, what it's turned out to be is I know how they beat us in numbers. I know what they're doing to get their costs down. So it helps us on the back end understand, when we're up against this guy again, I go, well, he's only figuring 6 inches of aggregate under your patio in his bid, and we're figuring, 14. So it helps us in a lot of different aspects, but it also helps those clients keep our brand in mind. And at the end of the day, we're value adding for them, for the client. We're learning a little bit about our competition. And in turn, those clients end up selling for us instead of their contractors 9 times out of 10 because they feel like their project would not have been as successful without us. And so, it's that's how the consultation side of things goes. That's how our design stuff goes. You know, like I said, the fees, if they want to bid it out with other people, are assumed, and people are ready for that. If they're pretty solid on PJEs doing their project, we don't have any consultation fees or design fees. We build that into our overhead cost.
This is Josh of Mass Hardscapes.
So indirectly, yes. I don't charge directly because everybody does free consultations. So basically what I do is I say we do free consultations, but I'm working that time into my overhead. So it's being charged more so to my customers. So it's being recouped in our hourly rate. So it's just basically being put in as overhead. So I'm getting return on that, but I also don't have to directly charge, which is great because it makes it look free to customers. But once we get to the design phase, I do start to charge depending on what type of design is necessary for the project. So if a customer needs a basic 2D design, which I do for basically any job anyways, to figure out quantities and have plans for my guys, it's free. But once we start getting into renderings and 3D design and fly-throughs and stuff, then I charge. And usually I give them a range for that, and it's just based on an hourly design rate.
This is Weston of WB Outdoor.
We have charged for them, and I don't think it's a bad idea. Like during last year, during COVID, I did start charging. I charge anywhere from $50 to $100. And it wasn't, I didn't really get too much friction off of it. A lot of the people that you would say, hey, well, you can give me some rough measurements and pictures, and I can give you a price over the phone, or I can do a in-person $50 consultation, but I won't be able to come out for a week or two or something. And if they're willing to wait then and pay the $50, and usually we already got the job. By the time we finished our conversation and everything with what they want done, you might already know that it's a quality lead, but this kind of just deterred the tire kickers from wasting your time because there's just so much volume, like of people calling. Last year, it was kind of overwhelming. So the $50 or $100 fee was just kind of a way to filter out some of the bad leads. And but some of the stuff that I went and looked at, I did a couple consultations where I did, it was $100 and gave them a bunch of design ideas. There's a few properties, and went and looked at them and helped them figure out what they're going to do with their whole property and stuff. So I think charging is not a bad thing, and it makes people value you as a person and as a company right off the bat. They don't want to waste your time because your time is so important, and especially when you're out in the field as much as we are as hardscapers, and myself, I'm just getting started. I feel like I have to spend so much time in the field. I'm tired. I don't really want to go run around and spend possibly hours at someone's house giving them ideas for their yard and they're not even going to pay for my service. So paying for our time, whether they're saying, hey, we're going to do it ourselves, that's fine. And I can give them some good ideas, but they can at least pay for the time. But back to, I'm not really charging anymore. I stopped doing it, but I don't feel like I had to. It hasn't slowed down too much, but I'm kind of back on track, and being selective about the leads and pre-qualifying them has helped me, I guess, filter out the tough clients.
This is Liz and Kenny of Vaughnscapes.
We charge, right now we charge $80. I think we're going to up it to $100 next year. And every year we choose a charity. We take all that money that they gave us in consultation fees and we donate it to a charity at the end of the year.
So then it's not technically a fee, I guess you would say. That's a really good pre-qualifier for us. We're not charging you for my time. I'm actually donating you my time. But my time is, you're paying for my donated time to a charity. If you're not willing to donate to a charity, you're really not wanting me to come out for my work.
It came from another contractor in our group, actually.
Yeah, because we kept feeling weird. Like people are so back and forth about paying for a consult. So it's like, how do I get in the middle, right? And then someone in the group was like, well, donate it. I think that would be a good idea. And we're like, we could. That'd be great. We could. You're not paying me for my time. I'm giving you my time as a donation, but you're going to donate the money to a charity.
And I'll tell you what, that if you're going to do one thing in your business as a hardscaper, I would say do that. And you may be scared about, leads getting scared off by that initial fee or whatever. But to be honest, those are not the clients that you want. If they're scared about an $80 consult fee, imagine how they're going to be about a change order that comes up on the job,
or an unforeseen that happens,
Yeah, they are not what you want. So it's a blessing for everybody if they decide to walk away because you have a consult fee. So
and the second side of that is if they're just looking for everybody that's trying to do free consultations, and then you're definitely not looking to pay for your designs, and if they're looking for free designs, free estimates, they're not looking for a quality product. Not that there's not guys out there that don't do it free, but there's a point in time where everyone, because we did them free up until a couple of years ago, but there's a point in time where you get to a point where you're just burning money not charging. And if you're not charging yet, you should absolutely be charging, because all you're doing is you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting the industry by not charging for your designs and not charging for your consults. It's not helping anybody in any form. And you're getting some clients and some customers, sure, but you could be elevating yourself to another level just by doing that, just by putting yourself in those brackets.
Yeah, like think about it, like an attorney calls you on the phone for 30 minutes and then he bills you for his 30 minutes. So why can't we bill for our time? We are so slammed and so busy, and we have we're more than just coming to your house and putzing around and taking measurements. We have a vision that we will share with you while we're there, and we will tell you what we think you should do with this space, or how we could transform this over here, or you have a problem with drainage over here. How can we fix that and incorporate it into our design? And giving people those pieces and those tidbits and adding value during your meeting is worth money. So I feel like if they're not willing to see that, and I feel like that plays on the brand too, because if you're not pushing your brand, then maybe they won't understand why there's a fee. Right. But if you are pushing your brand and being consistent and putting that's the vibe out there, then you can charge whatever you want for your consult fees.
Yeah, I mean, if your work is valuable, why devalue yourself by not charging for it? I think it's the most plain and way to go. I mean, if you do 30 designs a year and you even just charge $1,000 a year, it's $30,000 to put back towards your company, give towards your employees. I mean, even if you just want to give it back in gifts towards your customers, there's so many things you can do with that in so many different ways.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you got to believe in yourself, else no one else is going to believe in you. So believe in your value, believe in your ethics, your morals, your mission, what you're standing for, and why you're doing this, and then people will pay for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Be sure to go through our archive of 120 episodes to find each of these interviewees' full-length episodes that you can dive deeper into their thought process on their business, these I Am a Hardscaper interviews. And we love it if you subscribe to our podcast, left us a rating and review wherever you can. Follow us on Spotify, Apple, wherever you need to. And thank you to today's episode sponsor, Alliance Gator. Once again, check them out at alliancegator.com. And we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.